Okay, good evening, leaders. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you, trusting that you can hear me well on your end. Maybe if you can share a message or just unmute and say Jambo, I'll be able to know we are communicating well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, Beldina. How about Margaret and Pastor Phyllis?
Good evening, everyone. I'm fine.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Good to note you are well. Pastor Phyllis, I trust you also well. Okay, so I think we'll check with Pastor Phyllis as we continue. I'll share a message with her just to confirm that we are communicating. Otherwise, great to have come to this level. It has been a journey, and as usual, we just proceed. I think the rest will join us as we continue. For the sake of our facilitator tonight, Beldina Mse, I want to welcome you. And this is a combination of cohort 20 and cohort 21. This is the final session. So we've really walked quite a long journey together. And I think this is a great milestone. So in total, we are actually 7. And it has been a very, very interactive discussion together with this team. We've really had very good interaction. And I'm sure tonight, even as we conclude with lesson 16, we'll also be able to experience the same. And always our belief and our thinking has been, we need to think global, think in terms of generation. Lead local, basically taking the initiative. When there is a gap somewhere, we need to embrace it, take the initiative, and see how to address that gap. And that is the objective of the project proposal. And then at the end of the day, it's about transformation. The true measure of our leadership is how much impact we are able to make within our leadership spaces, the kind of transformation that people are able to experience in our presence and in our absence. So I'm sure this has been a very, very engaging period as we try to really reflect, because as you have noted, the key concept of this masterclass, beside the content, beside the engagement, I think there is a key component on reflection. And that reflection is really what makes the difference. Once we've gone through the session, the remaining days, that reflection of taking the evaluation test, evaluation report, and just thinking through what we went through. I think if you're able to really focus on that, at the end you realize you have gained a lot, you've learned a lot, and you've really been transformed by the end of the masterclass. So I want just to say a prayer, then from there we'll just be able to move on. So let's believe and pray. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this milestone, being together with us from the very beginning. And tonight, as we conclude the coursework, we want to pray the Lord, you speak to us. And we pray that, Lord, whatever we have learned, may you help us to deeply internalize, reflect, think through, and more importantly, oh God, help us to be able to really apply what we have learned for the glory and honor of your name. We trust in you and we believe in you tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So we'll start with a video, a short clip, and then after the clip, I'll be able to usher in the speaker. So let's look at this clip and just think through, reflect on the clip. We can spend some 3 minutes or so just to reflect on your viewpoint. We're talking about effective communication. So as you think and as you watch the clip, I want us to think along those lines and see what we can be able to pick from the clip that I'm going to share. So let's watch through and just discuss briefly. So I trust you can see some guys on your screen.
Okay.
are you able to hear and see the screen on my end? Can be able to see and hear the audio. Please confirm so that I can proceed.
I can see the picture.
Okay. Okay. So the movement will be the most critical because the language is may not be very clear, but just look at the sign. The sign will be the most critical in this clip. So let's watch and then we discuss briefly.
First person have 3 steps మూడు అడుగులు ముందరికి వెళ్ళండి. రైట్. మీరు కూడా ముందరికి వెళ్ళండి. ఒక హ్యాండ్ డిస్టెన్స్ లో ఉండండి. ఒక హ్యాండ్ డిస్టెన్స్.
ప్లెడ్జ్
అందరూ ఎవ్రీబడి కెన్ హ్యాండ్ డిస్టెన్స్.
ఏం కొంచెం ముందుకు రా
ఓకే.
ఆగు
You got the space? Now you got the space? Right? Okay. ఇప్పుడు మీరు వెనక్కి తిరగండి. అంతే. అంతవరకు you just focus, just stand there and get surprised. Get surprised. Okay? Just observe. Okay? Right? Yes.
No turnings.
Silent. Nobody looks back. Nobody turns back. Okay? Just listen. Don't laugh. మీరు నవ్వారంటే వాళ్ళ క్యూరియాసిటీ ఎక్కువ వెనక్కి తిరుగుతారు. ఈ గేమ్ లో ఉండే ఫన్ పోతుంది. If you want to have a fun along with learning, just keep quiet. Okay? Right? Accident. నేను ఏం చేసినా అది నువ్వే.
శేషాద్రి వెనక్కి తిరుగు. ఒకసారి
Turn back.
సతీష్ తిరుగు. సతీష్ చెయ్యి
Right. You turn that side. Yeah.
తిరుగు
You turn. Right.
తిరుగు
Tell him. Come here. Right? Last time ఏం చెప్పాను నీకు? ఏమన్నా కరెక్ట్ చెయ్యి. ఏం చెప్పాను నీకు?
Okay, I trust you have watched that clip and you've seen that communication challenge. And I don't know, what is your reflection on that clip? What can you pick from tonight's discussion about effective communication? So I can take maybe just one comment and then we'll be able to move on to the presentation. So I'll just want to open it up. What do you pick from that challenge? I'm sure the facilitator will also maybe want to also refer to that as we continue with the discussion. So, but let's share first for 2 minutes. What do you pick from that challenge, leadership challenge, in terms of communication? Any volunteer, just feel free to mention your take. Yeah, any observation? Maybe Margaret, any observation from your end? Anything that you're able to note from that clip?
Yeah, I've noticed that the message changed.
Uh-huh.
From the start to the end, it changed completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the longer the chain, along the way, you realize maybe there are some distortion of the message. It changed along the way. So that is one of the observations. Thank you, Margaret. Pastor Phyllis.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I've noted that there is poor communication. The first person got the information from the original kind of the action was distorted in the process. So the first person gave the wrong impression all through to the end. So everybody was receiving a different kind of a message. So the message was distorted across the line. So that's how sometimes you get the wrong communication because it is not effectively communicated. Thank you.
Yeah, very true. Some distortion along the way. And I think this is practical. It happens a lot within our leadership context or our organizations where a message is passed. And along the way, as the chain continues, you realize there's some distortion. And that's why sometimes we talk about leadership by moving around or management by moving around, because you may want to actually confirm. Was the memo interpreted correctly? Was the message passed on correctly? And again, you realize from the source, you can only communicate through one language, which was sign language. And that I think also could be also part of the limitation. Yeah. Secondly, you could note that from the clip, there was no room to really engage because there was no room to ask questions or consult. You could see the instructor saying only once, just you are only supposed to look at the sign one. Then when you see the sign from the source, then you communicate the same to the other person. So there were quite a number of limitations as well. But again, we are seeing the message from the source and the last person it was really a very different message by the time we were getting to the end of the chain. So let's think through this in terms of the effective communication within our organization. And I'm sure probably Beldina will also be referring to this as she takes us through. So leaders, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Beldina. Beldina is an alumni of this masterclass. She will also at least probably introduce herself more. But I met Beldina through one of our contact person, and from the look and from the first discussion, I saw this is someone who can really not just benefit from the program, but also be able to impact many people out there from the nature of her work. And I'm sure as she shares and also introduces herself, maybe in a more detailed way, I will appreciate and also engage with her tonight. So Beldina, it's my pleasure to welcome you so that you take us through lesson 16. Karibu sana Beldina.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Beldina Muse. I'm born again. I love the Lord, and I've been in this class. And as Mwalimu has just said, as Joseph has just said, I was in cohort 19, and I did that. I've taken the class, and it was a great experience. And you actually met during a graduation. So I thank God for the way people meet and the way God orders our steps. So I believe that God has a reason as to why you did this class and why you're taking the class. So I would also just like to congratulate you for the fact that you've come. I believe that this is your last class, even as you do the presentations on your proposal. So I'm very passionate about communication. That's what I do. That's my lifeline. I'm a teacher of communication, and I think it is something that I like talking about because it is something that happens every other day. So I even want to thank Mwalimu so much for giving me an opportunity to just share what I know about communication and to just facilitate this topic on communication, the power of effective communication in leadership. Because what I do actually, I teach people who are undertaking human resource. I teach them. There was one time whereby communication was a subject that was dropped at one point. It was not examinable, meaning that we would teach students, but they would not sit for the final exam in communication because it was seen that it is not really necessary. But somewhere along the way, the syllabi changed, and now communication is examined. Why? Because communication is seen that it is a necessary skill. It is a soft skill that is necessary for managers, that if you're a manager, if you're a leader, you should be able to communicate. So nowadays we teach communication because it will be an examinable unit. So I would just like to take you through communication and what I've learned along the way about communication. So kindly take me to the first slide. So when it comes to communication, we usually say that communication takes place anywhere where there's life. That apart from just the business setup that you'd be thinking of, anywhere where there's life, there must be communication. And usually say that you start communicating from the time you are small, like a small baby would cry. So that would be their language of communication. But as you go along, as you grow, you learn how to articulate your needs, you learn how to articulate what it is that you want, so that you can now say, this is what I want, this is what I do not want. So when it comes to communication, we communicate 20% of what we know, what it is that you know. Like as we said, when you are communicating or passing on the information from one person to the other, you will communicate 20% of what you know and 80% of what you feel. In other words, what are those feelings that you have? So most of the communication, it's about what you know and what you feel. And when it comes to what you know many things. There are so many things that you know, maybe from your experience, from your interaction with other people, from reading. So all that you know, that is now what you will communicate to another person. And then what you feel, what is it that you feel at that time? And that is what now you will communicate to another person. Now, it has been said that the greatest problem with communication is the illusion or the imagination that it has taken place. It's an assumption that when you communicate, people have understood whatever you have said. So that is now one of the biggest challenges when it comes to communication, that we have this imagination that we've said or we've spoken something and somebody has understood. So we imagine that communication has taken place. But sometimes even from that video that we saw, it's not all the time that communication has taken place. What was taking place was non-verbal communication. What the person was doing was non-verbal, but it did not take place because some people are not picking up the gestures that were being passed across from one person to another. Next slide, please. So when you're talking about communication, you must know what it is that you know, what you feel and do, and what is it that you want other people to know. Like, for example, right now, if we were asked about maybe your religion, then what is it that you know? So that is what you will be passing across. Maybe if you're asked about your feelings about a passage in the Bible, your favorite passage in the Bible, you will be picking it from what it is that you feel towards it, or the feelings that it evokes from you, from the reading of the Bible that you have had. And then when it comes to the doing, what is it that you do? And then you now communicate that. So when you're communicating, we communicate from what we know, what we feel, and what we do. So you must be clear in your mind. You must have clarity of thought. What do I know and what do I want people to know? What do I feel and what do I want people to feel? What do I do and what do I want people to understand about that thing that I do? And then when it comes to leaders, as I said, most of the time you will be communicating. As because I've dealt most of the time with human resource, let me use that as an example. When it comes to leaders, human resource, there are instructions that you need to give people. By the time they're coming to work, they must know what exactly you are expecting from them. And that is why you need a lot of the induction, a lot of orientation, to tell people that this is what you need to do when you are coming into the organization. And the same thing happens to leaders. I know there's a difference between leadership and management, but there's a thin line between the two. So when you're a leader, 80% of the time you will be communicating, and you're communicating to influence. A leader is somebody who influences, and you influence in various ways. There are times whereby you will influence through your words, that you speak words to people and you cause an impact, and people will follow those words that you're telling them. Other times they will look at you, they will observe your lifestyle. There's a verse in the Bible that says you are a letter that people read. So the same thing, the way that you act as a person will influence other people to want to do the same as what you're doing in that given scenario. So when it comes to communication, 80% of what you will be doing as a leader is communicating, whether it is directly through the words that you speak or indirectly through the actions or through the non-verbal communication that you give to other people. So you must always understand, how do I improve on my communication? How do I make sure that I can communicate to people, whether it is through that telephone call or whether it is through that face-to-face interaction? When I meet someone, how can I let them know that I'm really interested in the communication that I'm having with them? I don't know if they've ever encountered people who, when they're shaking your hand, they're looking the other way, or they would give you a very limp handshake. And that would communicate a lot that maybe you're not interested in this person. And people pick those signs. So when you're communicating, whether it is through the face-to-face encounters, whether it is through the interactions, the conference calls, the emails, how do you do an email? You know, like when it comes to written communication, we say that when you write in all capital letters, you are shouting. So when you're writing that email, how do you convey courtesy? How do you influence the person to know that I value you as a person and this is communication that I want to communicate to you? So you need to know, how do I frame that email in a way that will indicate that I've taken my time to actually go through that email and this is something that I want you to understand. When you're doing like a face-to-face interaction, apart from the words that you're speaking, you must always be conscious of your non-verbal. How are you communicating non-verbally? Your gestures, the appearance that you have, because sometimes when you meet somebody face-to-face, your appearance can just turn them off so that they're not paying attention to what you are saying. So as a leader, those are things that you must always think of. As I communicate, I must always know what is the end product of that communication that I am undertaking. So communication is something that will determine the success of a leader. So when it comes to communication, as we said, there are various aspects that you need to do as a leader, or you need to have as a leader. You must be aware, self-aware. There's that self-awareness that you must have. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Then you also now talk about communication. That is something that is very key. We call communication a soft skill that you must actually have. And then the influence, that is just something that I've talked about, that as a leader, you must be aware that you are influencing people. So always think about what kind of influence, what kind of mark do I want to leave on people? And just to mention, I'm sure you have heard of the statement that the first impression is the last impression. And that is on what? Communication. So you're influencing people through the appearance that you'll have, the impression that you create on people. And then the learning agility. How do you learn? How fast are you at learning? And that is why communication is a skill, meaning that it is something that you can learn. If it is something that you don't know, it is something that you can learn. You can keep improving it from the feedback that you're receiving. Now, when it comes to communication, there's a survey here that was done, and they were looking at the effect that communication can have on the success of a leader, whether that leader, if they're able to communicate effectively, then what would be the impact on the people that they are communicating to. So for the leaders who inspired trust, then they had high communication. They were very successful in communication. And then when you look at the next one, leaders who communicate effectively, they also have that that impact on the people. So according to that Fortune magazine article, effective communication is one of the 5 critical leadership success factors. In other words, being an effective communicator is an essential, required, non-negotiable skill you must possess in order to be an effective leader. In other words, you cannot do away with communication. Effective communication skills are one of the most sought after transferable skills in leadership. And that is what actually draws the line. There are times whereby I've heard from people who do the interviews that one of the things that they look at, somebody can have very good papers, but they cannot articulate themselves. You cannot articulate that paper. Like your CV has been well written, but now can you convince the panel? Can you persuade the panel that you can actually do according to your CV? So if you're a leader, you cannot do without communication. You need to communicate in a way that will enable people to understand exactly what it is that you are talking about. So developing communication is essential. As you said, we cannot overemphasize on the importance of communication. So I'll just read this quote by Gilbert. The leader must be able to share knowledge and ideas to transmit a sense of urgency and enthusiasm to others. If a leader cannot get a message across clearly and motivate others to act on it, then having a message does not even matter. So you have the message, and then you must also communicate that message to the other people who are listening to you. Then John Maxwell also said that, I'm convinced more than ever that good communication and leadership are all about connecting. If you can connect with others at every level, one-on-one, in groups, and with an audience, your relationships are stronger, your sense of community improves, your ability to create teamwork increases, your influence increases, and your productivity skyrockets. So those are the benefits of communication. And you're not just communicating one-on-one. You can do that when you're talking to somebody one-on-one. You can also communicate when you're in a group. Like if you're working in a group, in a project, you can communicate within that group. And then also when you're doing a presentation to an audience, then you should be able to communicate effectively. And that can also help you to make your relationships to grow stronger. Last time we were talking about, there's a session that you had about networking. And of course, when you're networking, you need communication so that you can build those relationships. So when you are communicating, then you must also know, how do we build those networks that we have? So when you need to communicate effectively, then you must communicate relentlessly. In other words, you communicate all the time. You do not give up in terms of the communication. Then you simplify. You know, some people think that when you're very complex, then that's when you can communicate effectively. You need to simplify your communication. There's a term that we talk about in communication, it's KISS, K-I-S-S. And it is keep it simple and straightforward. Keep it simple and straightforward. Don't complicate. In other words, as you're trying to communicate to people, bring it to their level, whereby this person will listen to that communication and they'll be able to get that information and the communication that you're passing to them. Then listen to people. And listening is something that is done actively. You do active listening to get to know what is this person talking about. And then you also encourage people to give you feedback, whether it is through direct or through the indirect communication. And then illustrate, like there are times whereby you may want to give a story, maybe from your own experience, to bring it down to the level of people. And of course, when you're using stories, you're using stories that are relatable to your audience. So you must always have your audience in mind. If I use this story, are they able to understand? Are they able to get that message that I'm communicating to them? And then you affirm with actions. They usually say that actions speak louder than words. So affirm whatever you are saying with your actions. What are those actions? Set an example. Even if you're communicating, you can also use the non-verbal or the audiovisual communication, and that would now help you to communicate effectively with other people. So as Stephen Covey said, first seek to understand and then to be understood. So you must also understand that audience. Always try to understand, who am I communicating to? So that even you, when you're communicating, you'll try to deliver a message that will be understood by your audience. Next slide, please. So when it comes to communication, and I think I've mentioned about those elements of communication or the components of communication. There are those 4 communication languages. We have the appearance and body language. We have 55% of body language, and then you have the language 7%, and then paralanguage 38%. When you're talking about the 4 communication languages, appearance is a key element. And that is why I even started by saying the first impression is the last impression. When you meet somebody the first time, what is that impression that you get about them? And chances are that is the impression you'll have about them. Even if they change later, their appearance will dictate. And we talk about branding in terms of your image. You must have an image, you must brand yourself. How do you want people to perceive yourself? And think clearly about your appearance. What is the occasion that you're going for, and appear the part. Don't appear like you are just maybe woken up from sleep and then told to present yourself. Your appearance speaks volumes, and people will make judgments, whether they're right or wrong, but based on your appearance, they'll either give you that attention or they'll ignore. And then body language. Body language here means things like your posture. What is that posture that you have? What is that facial expression that you have? If you're talking to people, do you seem like you're approachable, or do you seem like you're too busy for people? That is about body language. Your facial expression, your eye contact. When you're talking to people, are you making eye contact with them, or do you seem like you're avoiding eye contact with them? That is a part of the body language. You're talking about things like the posture that you have. And the posture is simply the way you stand, sit, or walk. How do you walk? Do you walk like you're confident of yourself, or do you seem like you're confused and not sure about where you're going? So you need to walk like you know where you're going. You're in charge of everything. Some people, they say they wear their stress on their face. So you should be able to manage that. Even like when there's a crisis as a leader, you should not portray to everyone and send panic. You as a leader, you need to control that emotion that you have, your facial expression and the body language that you'll have. And then words. And when you're speaking, we usually say, it is not what you speak, it is how you say it. In oral communication, you must always think about, how am I saying these words? And what will be the impact of the words that I'm giving to people? Then emotions. I believe at some point you looked at emotional intelligence. There was one unit, I remember there was something about emotional intelligence. You must know how to gauge the emotion, and also how to control your own emotion when you are communicating. Then paralanguage, it is just now that aspect of oral communication. As I said, in oral communication, the spoken communication, it is not what you say, it is how you say it. The intonation of the voice, the volume, your rhythm, your pace, all that will affect whether people understand you or not. Next slide. So when it comes to that communicating effectively, when it comes to the body and facial, that is nonverbal. Body and facial is about the nonverbal communication. And as you see, it is the base, it is the most, it forms the basis of that communication. And that is why in when you're talking about face-to-face communication, you must always think about that. What am I communicating in the gestures that I have, my face? How am I managing my face? Of course, you have the face management skills, and they're different. Sometimes you can mask your facial expression. you can neutralize it depending on the situation that you're in. So you should be able to take charge of that, your face, because they say the face is the mirror of the mind. Whatever is going on in your mind will be reflected on your face. So you must know how to manage your face. And then the tone and inflection. When you're speaking, your tone will differentiate whether it is a request, whether you're making an order, whether something is debatable or whether something is final. So you can also learn. And that is why sometimes even as a leader, you can stimulate people through the tone that you use. Like maybe people are giving up hope, but through the tone of your voice, it can give them hope that this thing is manageable, that you can actually do this. And then the words now, they form 8%. So the words, whatever you're saying, it's not as key as the way you're saying it, and even the facial expression and the body language that will accompany that. So as much as you're thinking about the words, also think about how are you presenting them? How are you presenting those words? So choose words carefully, but more so think about the tone. What is that tone that I will use that will not create a necessary offense? I'll use an example. There are times whereby you can tell somebody they are smart. You're just saying they're smart. But sometimes somebody can take that as an offense. Why? Because of the tone of your voice. What was the tone of your voice that you used when you're telling this person they are smart? So that's something that you need to think about. And a quote here, the art of communication is the language of leadership. So you must always know how to communicate. Even if you're very disappointed, sometimes you don't want to reveal that disappointment in your tone, control it. Even if you're very angered by maybe somebody that you're trying to mentor, somebody that you're trying to bring up, try to think about the tone that will bring the impact that you want. Because sometimes you may end up screaming. And that is why when you scream, it doesn't mean that your communication is clearer. Shouting doesn't make communication clearer. So you must always think about the words, the tone that you're using, and the body language. Okay, so let's watch that clip.
For even as we celebrate tonight, we know the challenges that tomorrow will bring are the greatest of our lifetime. I stand here knowing that my story is part of the larger American story, that I owe a debt to all of those who came before me, and that in no other country on earth is my story even possible. I'm the son of a black man from Kenya and a white woman from Kansas. I am married to a black American who carries within her the blood of slaves and slave owners. I have brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, uncles, and cousins of every race and every hue scattered across 3 continents. These people are part of me, and they are part of America, this country that I love. I've come here to Cairo to seek a new beginning between the United States and Muslims around the world, one based on mutual interest and mutual respect. Just as Muslims do not fit a crude stereotype, America is not the crude stereotype of a self-interested empire. To say that force may sometimes be necessary is not a call to cynicism, it is a recognition of history, the imperfections of man, and the limits of reason. We gather here to honor the courage of ordinary Americans willing to endure billy clubs and the chastening rod, tear gas and the trampling hoof. Men and women who, despite the gush of blood and splintered bone, would stay true to their North Star and keep marching towards justice. Blinded by hatred, the alleged killer could not see the grace surrounding Reverend Picnic and that Bible study group. The light of love that shone as they opened the church doors and invited a stranger to join in their prayer circle. The alleged killer could have never anticipated the way the families of the fallen would respond when they saw him in court in the midst of unspeakable grief with words of forgiveness. He couldn't imagine that. And while this nation has been tested by war, and it's been tested by recession, and all manner of challenges, I stand before you again tonight, after almost 2 terms as your president, to tell you I am more optimistic about the future of America than ever before. Hey.
Belina, please proceed.
Yes, thank you for that clip. And I believe we have all noted. I don't know if anybody can mention what you've noticed about those speeches. Anyone to tell us what they've noted from the speech? Anything that we've mentioned that you've noted? Any volunteer?
Let me try to comment on what I've observed. That President Obama was giving speeches and his tone could change depending with the audience he was addressing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good observation. Yes. Any other? His body language and facial expression is captivating. Yes, Reverend K, that's correct. Yes. Thank you for that. Any other person who can? So as you note, the tone was changing. Is there anybody before I lock out? Anybody maybe who wants to add?
Yeah, and probably he was adaptable. He could speak to different people, and he could be able to speak their language, fit in their context. At some point, he's with Muslim, he's Christians, and he's able to really make sure he's engaging and fitting into the context.
Thank you so much, Mwalimu. And even Reverend has added that he adopted to the environment in terms of what he said. Yes, that's correct. Whereby you must think about the audience. Always keep the audience in mind. Are they in a somber mood? Are they sad? Is it something where you want to charge them, like you want to make them, like there you'd excite a crowd. So, and he was able to do that. There are times where he used gestures a lot. There are times where he'd use his hands. There are times whereby he'd hold firmly to the lectern that he was using to give the speech from. So he was adapting. He was adapting to the audience. You need to read the mood of your audience. That, for example, let me use a different example away from Obama and the speeches that he was giving. And you have a project, maybe a project of connecting electricity, you must first be aware that this audience is hungry. So how do I make sure that even if I'm talking about electricity, I will connect it to their hunger, and how that electricity will help sort them out in terms of the hunger that they're feeling right now. Because if you don't, they will just start murmuring. Some can even walk away from you. So Obama was somebody who was able to adapt to the audience, read the mood of the audience, and know what is it that they are able to understand. If it's about the Muslims and the Jews and the Gentiles and everybody that he was talking to, what is it that is at heart? And even like when he was talking about that, the eulogy of the bishop, he was talking about something that people would relate to, the Bible study that he had. So when you're communicating to an audience, you must do your background in terms of understand the people that you're communicating. And even as Bernard has said, he was very passionate in his messages, that anytime, even when he came up with that slogan of yes, we can, he was passionate about it. So you also need to communicate passion, that when you're giving out the message, people will feel the passion in your voice, in your facial expression, in the way that you're, even the words that you decide to use, that people will actually believe in the information that you're giving to them. So we can proceed. The single most important role of a leader is communication. So all leaders need to communicate. They need to be communicators because leadership is equals to communication. So there's no way that you can lead without communicating. And communication is the real work of leadership. That is from a quote from Nitin. And then good leadership starts with good communication. That is, the author is unknown. And then your leadership will rise or fall based on your ability to communicate. Your leadership will rise or fall based on your ability to communicate. So you cannot escape communication. You cannot avoid communication. And effective communicators understand the purpose. That is, why are you communicating? Before you communicate, you must know your why. Are you communicating because you want to warn people? Are you communicating because you want to persuade them? Is it because you want to entertain? So your purpose must be very clear. Is it that you want to give people hope? Because as I said, there are sometimes as a leader, you may face situations that it's a crisis. People are giving up. People want to give up. So you must have that purpose. How do I communicate in a way that will ignite the hope in the people? So your purpose must be clear. And when your purpose is clear, you will know what to include in your message and what to leave out of the message. Then you must also know the method, that is the process. The process is basically the medium that you're going to use. Which medium are you going to use? Are you going to use, let's say maybe oral communication, or are you going to write that message? Are you going to do an audiovisual presentation? So you must know the method. You must know, how do I communicate? How do I want to pass on this message to the people that I am communicating to? And then you must also know the outcome. What is the feedback that I'm expecting? That feedback, that is the outcome now. How will I know that these people have understood? What action will they do to make me know that my communication was delivered and people understood that message? So as you communicate, you must know your purpose. Why? Why do I want to communicate? And that will help you in the process known as encoding. When you're encoding, you're basically deciding what will be in my message and what will I leave out of the message. And then the method, how will I communicate? Which medium am I going to use? Am I going to use oral? Am I going to use visual, audiovisual, or the non-verbal communication? And then what is the feedback that I'm expecting from people? So those are three clear things that one must be aware of. Yes, and then there's the same thing about now the why. The purpose, as we said, it is the why. You must understand the purpose of the communication. And effective leadership strategies start with knowing the purpose and expectation. As we said, there are many purposes as you are, why you want to communicate. Is it to inform people? Is it to instruct people? Is it persuasive? You want to persuade. Like, do you want to persuade somebody to join a class? Do you want to persuade somebody to change their behavior? Do you want somebody to want to become better in life? So your purpose is very key in terms of the communication, because that will help you in framing. You will be able to frame the message from the purpose that you have. So purpose will change everything. So you must think about my purpose. And purpose will also help you to avoid what we call information overload. Because once you know your purpose, you know, I've attained my purpose, so I stop there. I do not continue with the communication. But if your purpose is not clear, then you may end up giving people irrelevant information. So you must be very clear on the purpose as to why you want to communicate. And then the process, as you said, it's the how. How do I communicate? Do I draw pictures? Do I use words? Even the words that you're using, are you going to use a rhyme? Like people can keep responding to the rhyme that you say, or there's some people, I believe you've heard of the people who start a sentence and they want you to complete it. Like they say, nilie, da, like that. So you must know how do you want. And of course, you must know which audience are you going to use those words with. And then now the outcome, that is the feedback of the communication. Next slide, please. So when it comes to the communication, you must ensure that you focus on quality. What is that quality of the communication that you are giving? Is that communication relevant to even the people that you're communicating to? So it's not really about the quantity, it's about the quality. And that will be about the content, the words that you've decided to use, and even the packaging that you have for that message. And then you must know your audience. Just the same way that I think it was Reverend who was talking about that President Obama was able to adapt to the audience. So the same thing with you. Anytime you communicate, you must know what is your audience. Who are the people you're communicating to? Are they people in high school? Are they people maybe who are working? Are they pastors? Are they reverends? So you must know your audience. Who is this person? Is it a small child you're talking to? So the more you know about your audience, the easier it will be for you to communicate to them. So once you know your audience, once you have your message, then you're able to now know what is this message and how do I package it in a way that it will appeal to the group that I am communicating to. Next slide. Okay. Only effective communicators connect, inspire, and influence. Capturing a vision idea is one thing. Communicating the vision is an inspirational and influential manner. Sorry, let me repeat that. Only effective communicators connect, inspire, and influence. Capturing a vision or idea is one thing. Communicating the vision in an inspirational and influential manner is another major task that only effective communicators achieve. Having a vision or an idea is one thing. Getting others to understand and rally behind the idea is anchored on effective communication. You must have the vision. And once you have the vision, you must make people to buy into that. I don't know whether it was Wesley who was saying that you must have a vision that is very clear. Like it's like you set yourself on fire so that people can come and watch you burn, because you have your vision is clear in your mind and you know exactly what it is that you want, and you can even make other people to buy into the idea. So you must begin with a clear vision. The vision must be very clear in your mind, and then you must also articulate it very clearly to people so that they can now buy into your vision. And then they can support you now to get that, that vision actualized. Leadership is a function of knowing yourself, having a vision that is well communicated, and then you build trust among colleagues and taking effective action to realize your own leadership potential. And that was by Professor Dr. Mohammed Ahmed Quadri. And he was talking about that you need that vision and then you communicate it well. And then once you communicate it well, then you can build trust among people. People can trust, they can buy into this idea that you can actually lead them to where you're telling them. Like, for example, if it's a mountain, you are having a vision of climbing a mountain. So you communicate that so well so that people are even seeing the scenery from above that mountain. And you convince them that when they get to the top, they'll experience and they'll see that mountain view that you have in your mind. So that is what a leader should do. You have a vision that is very clear, and then you also influence other people to get that vision. Friendship is a what? A soft skill. It is a skill that you cannot do without. It is a skill that you learn it and it will influence you. And sometimes communication is just what will distinguish one candidate from another, one leader from another. How do they communicate? And also, just to mention, I've remembered there was one time whereby somebody was giving an example of leadership, and a leader was giving an announcement in church, and they started by criticizing people. And they wanted the women in the church to do something. So this leader comes up and then they say, you women, you never wash the dishes, you never cook when you have visitors, you neglect the visitors when they come to church. And then they said, tomorrow we are having visitors, so we want the ladies to come. How do you think the ladies would respond to that? So it is about now you and the way that you're communicating to people. How are you influencing them? So that is why we are saying that communication, it is a soft skill. It enhances those hard skills that are there, and it will differentiate that performance. You need to know how to collaborate with other people and network so that you can now have that performance that will be exemplary. And then effective interpersonal skills enhances relationships, networking, and collaboration. On Wednesday, we were learning from this same forum, we're learning about networking. And we were being told that you need to communicate to other people. It's not always about you, but when you communicate, you must also be willing to listen to the other party. That it's not always about you and what you want to communicate to others and pass on to other people, but communication should be two-way. That you send out the message and you also receive messages that you that your receiver is send out messages. Mwalimu, next slide, please. The three qualities of an effective communicator. Qualities of an effective communicator and a leader. Audience focused. More of the audience and less of you. Now, let me use a crazy example. When you go fishing, you will give the fish what it wants, not what you want. A fish would want worms. You don't want worms. But because you want the fish, you will give the fish what? Worms. So when you're communicating, focus on the audience. Think about what is it that the audience wants, not what you want. Don't be so much on focused on yourself. But as much as you want to communicate something, you must also be willing to know what is this audience capable of understanding. Engage your audience. The same way that when you're talking to a small child, you usually will come down to their level. And sometimes you even bend. So literally you do that when you're communicating. Come to the level of the people. You may be a doctor here, you have a doctorate, but the people that you're communicating to, if you speak to them the jargon, using jargon, they will not get what you're saying. So you must come down to their level, focus on the audience. The more you know about your audience, the easier it will be for you to communicate to them, because you will know what are they capable of understanding, which is the language that they can understand, what examples will be relevant to them, what is their attitude. So focus on the audience. So ask yourself questions like, what information does my audience need to know? What exactly do they want to know? And how do I present this information in a connecting approach? How can I help them achieve their goals? Like if it is, let's say maybe you're in a mentorship program and you're trying to influence the young people who've just finished high school. So how do you help them to achieve their goals? So focus on them. You've been maybe in the working environment for some time. So package your message in a way that it will be understandable to them, because you've been through all those stages. So once you understand the audience, then you can package a message in a way that they will clearly understand. And then the second one is passion. You must be passionate about what you're communicating. You cannot seem like you are doubting whatever you're communicating to people. Like, for example, assuming that you're telling somebody about this masterclass. So you need to speak in a way that will make people want to join the class. You will not speak in a way that you seem like you are so bored that you will turn them off. So you must now know, how do I show my passion so that people will actually want to come and take part in the class and even enroll for the class. So you must be passionate for what you are talking about. If you want to sell, you first have to be sold. You must believe in what you are selling. So you must have first bought into the idea. You cannot sell something that you don't believe in. So the first thing is have the passion for whatever you're communicating. Then the third one and the last one is be the expert. You need to be the expert in whatever you are talking about. Gather all the relevant information. Gather the information that you feel people would want to know about that topic. So master your subject. Be the expert of the topic. Be knowledgeable about that topic so that you can offer value. Have an impact where somebody would now feel that, yeah, it was worth it that I listened to this person. So be the expert in whatever you are telling people. Even if it's a story in the Bible that you're telling people, gather all the related stories, gather all the versions that you can, all the possible versions. So be the expert. and convey that in your tone, in your body language, and even in the words that you use, and even in the illustrations that you use to give that information to other people. So those are the qualities that you need to have. You need to be audience focused. You need to have passion, burn with passion. Even the voice that you're using should reveal that you're passionate about what you are talking about. I'm sure you have heard of these people who are selling items, like you've heard those dawayamende, and they have passion when they're speaking about that dawayamende, and then they're the experts. They will do everything they can to convince you about that product. So be audience focused, have passion for whatever you're talking about, and then be the expert. You can actually think about it like APE, APE, audience focused, passion, expert. Audience focused, that is A, passion, expert. So APE. When you want to communicate, then be an APE, audience centered, passionate, and an expert. So APE for effective communication. So when it comes to speaking competencies, you must have engaging introduction. And how do you do that? Sometimes you can ask a question when you're introducing, let's say, a speech, or you're introducing a topic. You can begin with the quotations. And as you've realized, maybe there've been quite some quotations. Yeah. So sometimes when you're beginning your speech, you can start with a quotation, engage the audience. Sometimes you can even ask them questions and then see the response that they are giving to you. And then master your topic. Master that topic. Prepare. There's a lot that happens in the background. So do your background check so that you can connect with the audience, and then adapt that message to the audience. You can have the same message being given to different audiences, but make sure that it is suitable for that audience that you are communicating to. And then have clear organization. Clear organization means structure. In other words, have a clear structure. What will you have in the beginning? What will you have in the middle? What will you have in the end? So you must have that clear organization of your material, whatever it is that you want to present. And then have well-supported ideas, like, do you have facts? Do you have figures? Do you have stories? So support those ideas that you're giving to people. And then also think about the language. When you're very good in that language, whichever language, whether you're using Kiswahili, English, then use language that can draw pictures. Use the picture language, whereby you can draw that picture in a way that people can get whatever you are communicating. Then you must have that suitable vocal expression. Vocal expression means the tone of your voice, your volume, your speed, your intonation, your pronunciation. All that needs to be considered in your vocal expression. And then you also need to support your vocal with your nonverbal, your facial expression. When you're saying something that is exciting, let your facial expression also show the excitement. If it is something sad, then do also have that appropriate facial expression. And then you can also use the visual aids. Visual aids are like pictures. You can use PowerPoint presentations. You can even use models that can be part of your visual aids. And then convincing persuasion can come through your tone of voice and also through the illustrations or the stories that you use. And then when you're closing, think about how you summarize that presentation that you have. So you conclude like with the one word or a summary, or even like an acronym, like the way you've talked about APE. And then you can now use that to close that presentation that you've had in a way that will leave an impact on the people. And then preparation, you cannot over prepare. You'd rather over prepare than under prepare. So preparation and practice should give you a good chance of delivering a good presentation. So communication stoppers, these are things that they hinder communication. They're like barriers to communication. And sometimes it is when you accuse people, maybe sometimes when you tell people you are wrong. There are other ways that you can present your view without seeming like you're confrontational with the person. And then even when you're giving people what's your proof, you're asking them what's your proof, whatever, you know, somebody's talking to you and you have that attitude like whatever. So those are sometimes things that can stop people from listening. Or like when you use you you always do this, you never do this. Those are like, you're blaming the person. And sometimes when you do that, people will shut off from the communication. So you must always think about assertiveness. You must think of being assertive. And when you're assertive, even when somebody has done something wrong, you don't say, you always do not return my calls. You would tell somebody, I appreciate if you'd call me back if you miss my call. So it's about I now. You don't put the blame on the other person. So those are some of the communication stoppers. So as I conclude, when you're an effective leader, you must know that it is critical for you to communicate effectively. Communication should be purposeful and active rather than a passive activity. Then effective communicators, they engage in every conversation having an expected outcome in mind. In other words, you know what feedback you are expecting. And with different conversational opportunity, effective communicators clearly understand their audience and their role. Then they also are open-minded. They take the available opportunities to share their perspective with an open mind. When you're open-minded, that means you can look at things from different perspectives, and you can also listen to other people as they give you their perspective. You're not the know-it-all. You can also listen to other people as they give you their information. Then lack of effective communication leaves too much room for imagination and speculation. Even the rumors that go around, it's because people don't have effective communication. So if you want to stop people from spreading the rumors, then give them the correct information. When you can do the common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. When you can do the common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. That is a quote from George Washington. So thank you so much for listening. And if you've missed out on many things, I hope that you will remember that for you to communicate effectively, you must ape. That is, be audience focused, have the purpose, and be the expert. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Beldina. I think we can appreciate Beldina in our own style, in our own way. That has come out very clear. And we've connected with you. We've connected with you. My God. Yeah, sorry. So I just want to probably allow a minute, maybe a minute or so for each person, because this is the final discussion or the final module. And we are all communicators in different ways. And I'm sure maybe probably there is something that you may also want to contribute, or there's a question you may want to share. So as we transition to the discussion about the project proposal, we can conclude this, and I just allow us to share our reflection on the topic and probably if you can just unmute, if you're in a position, you can unmute and mention something. I think that will be much, much better. But if you're in a position where you cannot be able to unmute and speak out, we'll also appreciate if you communicate through the chat. So allow me to start with Margaret, and then I'll go to Pastor Phyllis. Then I'll move to Mr. Mwangi, and we'll conclude. We'll continue that way. So let me welcome Margaret first for her thoughts about this discussion and maybe your takeaway. So Margaret, if you're in a position, you can sit.
Yes, something that I've learned tonight is that whenever we are communicating, we should be audience focused. We should be so much more of focus of the audience and less of us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Margaret. I always say that when the moment you land on the stage, now the business is about the audience, because probably we had the time to choose the kind of the attire we'll put on. We thought through our message. reviewed our message. We looked at all the components in terms of preparedness. But the moment now we are on the stage, now those becomes non-essential because we are now in front of the audience. So even if there is an issue with the attire, there is an issue with the message, maybe you missed out a comma or whatever, now those has to be handled behind the curtain because our eyes now are on the audience. And I think that's just connecting to what Margaret has mentioned. Pastor Phyllis?
Yeah, I've learned a lot. That was very wonderful kind of an explanation on effective communication. One thing that caught my attention is about the acronym APE, that you must be audience focused, must have a passion for whatever you are telling your people, and be the expert. Also, I learned that I have to know about the body language. I have to focus on the audience. I have to keep my eyes focused on the audience I am addressing and make sure that I give the relevant communication depending with the audience. Because sometimes you might be speaking to a group that is, you have to observe and know the kind of an example that you're going to give in line with whatever communication you are giving. So I've learned a lot, and I've also learned that I have to be clear in my organization. I have to be well supported, clear with the language, and also adapt to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Phyllis. And leaders, I may want to connect this with the project proposal. For the project proposal, what we are looking at is that logical flow of an idea from the beginning of problem identification to the objectives, to the motivation. Someone can be convinced by how we have structured our presentation. We are able to clearly paint out how this issue is critical. Why do we need to address this issue? The issue is so critical, and that comes in the problem statement. And there's a motivation. How is this impacting us? And through that kind of a logical flow, people are able to buy into what we are selling out. If you're selling an idea, if you're looking for donors, you're looking for stakeholders, then they can clearly see this is the problem and this is the approach that we have come up with. That logical flow is critical, and it's part of the communication that we are talking about tonight. So thank you, Pastor Phyllis. Let me move on to Mr. Mwangi and then Reverend Ken.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, leaders.
Good evening.
Yeah, may I first take this opportunity to congratulate the leaders in these cohorts. This far they have come. It's not a mean achievement. So congratulations. As we come to the end of the program, there are about 6 key things, or I would call them powers, that the GLN program has given unto you. The power of vision, the power of purpose, the power of character, the power of mentorship and succession, the power of personal growth and development, and the power of communication. Mr. Chairman is saying that this is the end of the program, but I want to believe this is the beginning of the journey, because it's a long journey. With those powers that have been conferred upon you, you should be able now to go out there and create more leaders, those who come after you. So may I take this opportunity to congratulate you, and we shall move on together. We shall keep sharing and networking because this is just the beginning of the journey. Otherwise, thank you so much and feel part of the GLN family. Asante, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mwangi.
Back to you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Mwangi, can hear you well.
Hello, can somebody hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me move on to Reverend Ken, and then I'll conclude with Lynn.
Thank you very much, Joseph Kiaria, for giving me an opportunity to say something. And first of all, I want to appreciate Beltina. She's done an exquisite job. I think she's a communicator. I need to start using such words. She's done a really tremendous job. But one of the, I think something that I have learned as she was talking, for me, I wrote them differently. I say that for communication to be effective, it must be clear, it must be correct, it must be complete, concise, and compassionate. It's kind of 5 C's, you know, depending on who you are talking to. And so one of the striking things that I think came out so powerfully and clearly when Beldina was sharing is the fact that it is of necessity for any good communicator to be totally prepared when you're coming before your audience. You know your script well, you know what you want to say, and you know you're focused on what you want to say by the end of it all. Otherwise, thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Ken. And if you can share those 5 C's on the chat, we'll appreciate just to also learn from what you have clearly articulated. So kindly feel free to share on the chat. Thank you. And let me conclude with Lynn. Your reflection on this discussion, Lynn?
Good evening. Thank you so much, Mwalimu. Yeah, I think Gumbaru has a lot of challenges. I was running to catch up with the class, but by the grace of God, have been able to connect and catch up from the point that I've joined. And let me join my hands with my fellow leaders who have greatly appreciated this presentation. From where I sit, I have really learned in those few minutes so much that I start by saying that the presenter is a communicator by herself because she has communicated to me, and I feel that that was effective communication to start with. And I have also learned how to be careful with my audience, lest I blame my audience when I have something to communicate, because that can affect the effectiveness of my communication. I have also learned something else, that she has corrected me and built a lot of confidence in being the expert. Many a times when we get to the stage and we are wobbling with our content, she has affirmed that I must be the expert. I must be the person with what the rest are expecting to hear. So alongside all what my fellow leaders have said, this has also been additional. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Yeah, I realized that anytime I am making a presentation and I'm well prepared, it also boosts my level of confidence because I feel that I've mastered the content, I'm competent, I've done my research, and probably I can be able to handle the questions based on how well I'm prepared. And I think that's part of what really helps us in terms of building our confidence. If we are well prepared, then it builds our confidence, and we're able to deliver the content and also probably spend some good time now engaging with the audience because you have already probably internalized your content beforehand. Beldina, I don't know, maybe I can allow you to share your parting shot as we transition from this discussion. What is your parting shot to the leaders?
Thanks a lot, Mwalimu, and also the leaders. Thank you for the opportunity. And it's good to also just keep learning. As you said, as I believe that nobody has the monopoly of knowledge. So I've just added even the 5 C's and the other great things, great insights that I'm getting from people. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the best, leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beldina, for being together with us, for sparing this time to add value to the leaders and also to continue learning. And the leaders, just to conclude this discussion, why is effective communication very important? Because sometimes you are running with a big vision and you require buy-in. You require people to engage with you. You're running a big project. You're running a massive project, which requires people, requires resources. And therefore, our ability to be able to communicate the vision, to communicate the project in a way that people will feel the benefit, will feel the need of being part and parcel of that vision is critical. And I trust that as we continue with this discussion, as we continue to engage around this issue of communication and all that we have learned from the very beginning, we'll be able to really boost our leadership level, because what at the end of the day, what we expect is that if we are operating at a particular level, by the time we are concluding this masterclass, then we'll have at least shifted to a higher level of leadership in all those domains that we have talked about, in terms of the vision, in terms of communication, in terms of mentorship, in terms of being clear in terms of purpose, in terms of leadership, problem solving, in reference to the triple loop learning, and many other things that we have learned in this masterclass. So I trust that as we conclude, next week will be the final discussion, and we'll also have some time just to reflect on how the journey has been, as we also share our ideas on how we can improve the program. But tonight, we just want to pause there in terms of the modules. And just to say a big thank you and congratulations, because we have finalized the coursework. We have handled the 16 modules. So this is great. You remember those 2 guys that were climbing the mountain, and the 2 of them were at the top of the mountain? The people who are here tonight, you as the leader, the leaders who are here tonight, you're the guys who have conquered the mountain, because you've been able to climb this mountain to the apex. And this is a big, big achievement. I will disclose this, that this masterclass is somehow stretching. And what happens is that along the way, there are leaders who are not able to keep at pace, because we felt it's just good to come up with something that will also stretch us, something that will challenge us, something that will add value, but also squeeze us a little bit in terms of our commitment, in terms of book review. It has not been easy, I'm sure, but at least it was worthy. It is worthy walking the journey. So we'll talk about that next week as we conclude. Tonight, we want to spend the remaining 25 minutes, let's say maybe 15 to 20 minutes, just to think through about the project proposal. Last week, we engaged and we really had a very good discussion. The beauty of discussing this project proposal in bits is that it's also a learning process, because whatever you research on and you discuss here, it's able to add value to us, and also it adds value to you. We're able to expose us to different topics of concern. And I think along the way, this is the main agenda. Again, if I can add, in addition to what I mentioned, is that it's a learning experience to you, the researcher, and also to us, who will be the audience, who will be consuming your research. So we'll spend a few minutes just to look at what you have. If you have added anything from the last discussion, maybe you can just focus on the additional content. I've received the PowerPoint from that's cohort 21, Reverend Ken, Margaret, and Joshua. So if you'll wish I project from this end, let me know. I'll share your projection, and then you can just take us through. So let's start with Lynn, and then we'll look at the cohort 21, and then we'll conclude with Pastor Phyllis. Wherever you are, whatever level you have been able to do, that's important. I said it's a gradual process. Next week will be our marathon, because we'll try to see, fine-tune whatever we have already come up with in readiness for the presentation on Saturday. On Saturday, we'll also be inviting cohort 22. They will be joining us. There are around 14 of them, so they'll join us so that they can also pick up one or two things from your project proposal. Otherwise, let me pause there. Allow Aline just to be able to share your progress. Then we'll be able to also make our contribution as you present. Thank you, Aline. Please take it up.
Thank you so much, Mwalimu, on this particular presentation. Let me start by saying that we are making progress as a team, and my colleague is looking at adding up all the observations that we have made in the week. And my observation is that I've not been able to get Bwana Josh this evening, so it is not possible for me to give an holistic progress from where we left last time. And because we wished that we could do a full presentation today, in this circumstance, I will beg that you allow us, if you concur, that we polish and send to you and be able to present fully next class. That is my kind request. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And probably we can negotiate in terms of time. If you're able to send on Tuesday, by the closure of day on Tuesday, I'll be able to work on it on Wednesday, share my comments, and then probably on Thursday you can review, and by Friday you can send me back the revised copy in readiness for Saturday. And this will apply to all the teams. So if we can agree that by the closure of day on Tuesday, kindly share your submission so that on Wednesday I can also give you my feedback, and I will continue engaging in the course of next week so that we are ready by Saturday. Is that agreeable?
Most appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, True, and let's work with that. So let me move on to the second group. We'll have Margaret, we have Reverend Ken. Joshua is not with us, but I'm sure probably the two of you will stand in. Should I project what I have, what you had already submitted? Margaret, you can advise on that. Margaret, can advise me if I need to project what you shared with me.
Yeah, kindly project for now what we have or what you have, please.
Okay. Okay, so you can take us through.
Hello.
Hello, Margaret.
Mm-hmm. Just a minute, please.
Okay.
Margaret, if you have challenges, I can be able to help out if you have challenges.
Yes, please. I have challenges with my phone, please.
All right. Okay. So as you have seen in cohort 21 team, we are 3. That's Margaret, myself, and Joshua. We had a discussion and we said that our main focus is going to be leading a family in the 21st century. Joseph, we have rectified a few things from what we had sent you, but the information is almost the same, but we changed a few things here and there. So we said, as we looked at the background, we said leading a family or parenting in the 21st century has become a demanding full-time job, a job that no one ever trains you for. You may find solace in the fact that even though the previous generations didn't face the challenges that we do, parenting wasn't smooth sailing for them either. If I do paragraph 2, we have over the past decades, we've seen parents beg and negotiate with their kids, making feeble attempts to get them to psychologically buy into the right thing to do, and sometimes throwing money, gadgets, and opportunities at them, resulting in the creation of a self-indulging child with a sense of entitlement and a false sense of security. And later they witnessed this blowing up in their children's face once they reach adulthood, where behavior and attitude become far less excusable and accepted. So today, parenting is more than being a child's best friend or buying the latest technology. It's about leadership and sometimes having to make unpopular decisions because it's in the best interest of the child. If parents don't, no one else will. Then we gave a survey there. If you may take me to the next slide, there was a survey there that we looked at. This survey was done at the university in Santa Barbara. And apparently this is something that is also affecting the Kenyans, because we really tried to look at something that happens in Kenya. And apparently most of the researchers we were getting, these guys are still copying from the US, I think because it's more civilized and things are working out so fast for them. And they gave us a survey there that over the 30 years, they've realized the family has been changing. So less than 25% of US population lives in a nuclear family today, including step families. Then we now have the new thing here where we have gay and lesbian families have risen 300% between 1990 and 2000. Then the number of unmarried couples living together has increased tenfold since 1960 and rose 72% between 1990 and 2000. We are now in 2022, so I think the percentages have really skyrocketed. Then we've got the single parenthood jumped to 54% between 1970 and 2000. And 30% of all children today are born out of wedlock. 41% of those babies are born to cohabiting couples. Apparently in Kenya right now, we have people who want children, but they don't want commitment. And so we end up having different challenges. Like if I may give an example, recently we did a wedding in church, whereby by the time we were having those particular couples were having their reception, they had already separated from one another, because we realized the young man has been raised by a single father and the young girl has been raised by a single mother. So the young girl does not know how to take instructions from a man, and the man does not know how to take instructions from a girl. And so it reached a place where we said, even in our counseling, we will have to change so that we are able to focus on the things that are happening currently. Then we gave a statement of the problem, and I think this is where changes are. Mr. Kerr, this is where changes are. So the statement of the problem, we said in this newer version, today kids face challenges and dangers that most of us never dreamt of when we were growing up. Online predators, mass school shootings, cyberbullying, all of which can lead to confusion, anxiety, depression, performance issues, and suicidal tendencies. In addition, they spend more time staring into screens that we ever imagined, absorbing incredible amounts of information beyond our control. The consequences of these influences, as well as societal pressure, impact their day-to-day life. The motivation, though, is that our children are not beyond redemption. We hang on Isaiah 54:13. All your children shall be taught by the Lord, and great shall be the peace of your children. Then we have our motivation. We said, if we are going to make a difference for the kingdom, I believe there are 5 constructs to which we must attend in leading families in the 21st century. Number 1, we must be theocentric, not family-centric. So we have to focus on God. Our message to families must, at its heart, be redemptive instead of condemning. Then our training must be relevant to families of various forms. So where we have people who've cohabited, single parents, those who are being led by widows and widowers. It's not our work to judge, but to be redemptive. Then our training, we must mature our practice models to reflect our philosophy of family life ministry. And then we must model self-care and personal boundaries to families. So what we were putting in as the statement of the problem, we decided to put it as part of the motivation. Then we have objectives. And I think that one you don't have objectives. We will pay attention to what's going on in the child's life and incorporate the 3 R's in order to lead the family effectively. The 3 R's are: read a child's environment. That means paying close attention to what's going on in the child's life and what influences their world. Then number 2, regulate their emotional temperature by paying attention to how they respond to influences. Teach them how to control their emotions. Then 3, redirect their behavior, paying attention to their child's accomplishments and disappointments and directing them to their highest personal success and significance. Our methodology will have literature review, that's research from books and online, then questionnaires where possible, then observation, that is what we have seen and experienced as 21st century parents. We had only one finding because we are still working on the research, the findings and discussions. One of the keys to effective 21st century parenting is flexibility, matching parental responsiveness and direction to the level of performance a child demonstrates. And this process needs to be in constant motion, evaluated, and adaptable to the child's results. That's where we are. We're still trying as much as we can to be able to meet and forge a way forward. Apparently, guys are a little bit busy. I don't know whether Joshua is out of the country or something like that. I've been doing revival meetings in Kisumu, so I'm in Kisumu currently. So we've not been able to meet physically, but online we are talking to one another and chatting and exchanging ideas. And we are hopeful that with your guidance, I will be able to do something about this. It's not an easy job, so we will really need your direction. But I'm also consulting a few friends of mine who are in cohort, I think 17, 18, and 19, so that they can also lend a hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reverend Ken, Margaret, and Joshua. Last week, we really discussed about this topic, and we felt this is a topic that is addressing a critical issue in society, leading family in the 21st century. It's a topic that when you are done, we might need to have quite a number of presentations from this team, even to those leaders that have already finalized the masterclass, because the information that will come out of this discussion, because I'm seeing some statistics that are quite alarming. The trend is a very serious issue, seeing the trend, especially on this slide, seen that like gay and lesbian families have risen 300% between 1990 and 2000. Again, single parenthood jumped, I think that is 254% between 1970 and 2000. So I think this is something that will be very informative. And will also will trigger our curiosity in terms of really paying a lot of attention to this issue. Before maybe I share my refined comments, let me open it up for any reaction from the audience. Any reaction, any comment, any contribution, and then I'll just share my thoughts as we finalize with this group. So let me open it up first for comment from the audience. Just feel free, if you have a comment, you can just feel free to unmute and share your comment with the team.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is Bernard.
Yes, Mr. Mwangi, Bernard.
Yeah, congratulations to the team. That's a very interesting topic. And I think we need to see the end a bit of it so that, families are really affected in one or the other. And it is our generation and the generation to come whose responsibility is there to remedy the errors that have occurred in the past. He mentioned about the 3 R's. I didn't clearly get the second R. There was the first, reading the child environment, redirected behavior. There was another R there, I really didn't get it clear. Otherwise, it's a good presentation. We look forward to the end of the project so that we can appreciate the efforts they have put in. Thank you and congratulations, Reverend, and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mwangi. Any other reflection?
Yeah, the second R was about Reverend.
Yeah,
hear me.
We have the 3 R's.
The 3 R's, yeah.
Yeah, read a child's environment.
Yes.
Then regulate their emotional temperature.
Oh yeah, that's what I mixed. Regulate.
Yeah, regulate their emotional temperature, then redirect their behavior.
Sandra, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other reflection I think we'll just take one more. Let's take one more, then we move on.
Maybe I can just comment also that has been a great presentation by the Reverend and the team. It's an interesting topic because I think it is relevant for right here, right now, that they are talking about things that are key, things that are happening, things that you are seeing, and even he's bringing in new perspectives that maybe people may not have been aware of with the statistics that he's coming up with. And I think it's a reality. So it's good that they are going a step further and just researching on the same. And I believe they'll give a way forward, like recommendations on what's the best way forward. So I believe it's a good job they're doing. So congratulations to that team.
Thank you, Beldina. Good. So, Reverend, I'll share with you some material. I was recently talking to some parents, and we were talking about parenting in the 21st century. And I think this can also at least shed some light. Maybe you can pick one or two things from this research that I did. I've seen some of the issues that you have brought up here. I was able to also include in this discussion, so I'll share that with you. One, on my observation, I think the topic, as we said, is appropriate. Leading family in the 21st century. Have you changed anything on the topic, the title?
We only put letter A. We said leading a family in the 21st century.
Okay, that's okay. For the background, I feel some of the content in the background might shift to the literature review so that we only highlight the key issues here. Mostly maybe for the survey, may need to pull this to the literature review so that we can give it some more content. And then in the background, we just highlight very, very precise information that now we'll also be picking from the literature review, because actually the literature review informs all the other parts of our of the project proposal. It informs part of the background, it informs the problem statement, and it also informs all the other sections. So I feel just to make sure that the background is also not very detailed, we need to decongest it by shifting this good content part of it to the literature review. If you can have a maximum of 2 slides for the background, I think that will do. And then the rest we can shift to the background. And this is a good problem because already you have a lot of content, so we just need to see how to organize it. If I call it a problem, not really a problem, is just reorganizing. So let's see how to work around that. For the statement, what you read is clearly is a precise problem statement. When I looked at what you had shared, I had an issue with this this part. I didn't see it coming out strong as a problem statement, but now you have clarified that. So just include whatever you have read out in part of the problem statement. To me, I was feeling like this should be coming out as part of the, whatever is in the problem statement currently should be coming out as part of what we expect at the end of the literature review, what we expect at the end of the research. These are some of the issues that might come up as findings. Yeah, they might, because they need to be informed by our research. They need to be informed by part of the recommendation of what you have been able to find out. Maybe they also need to be informed by the survey. If you'll undertake a survey, what is the survey bringing out in terms of probably the actions we need to take, the initiative, the strategies that we need to embrace. So this can move to either part of the finding and discussions, or it can come out as part of the strategies that will emerge from the study. Are we together in that? Are we in agreement on this area?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So just include the problem statement in this, and then we'll be good to go. The motivation, I think one of the key issues about this, why this topic is very important, is the position of the family in society. So I think we need to bring out that very clear, that if we don't address the families, then the entire society will be negatively impacted. So the position of the family in society is a key motivation area. That family is fundamental. Family is the backbone of the society. So how you bring out that, now you'll have to look at maybe the suitable words to bring that out. But we want to say that family is core. And that's why we feel we need to address this issue. We need to address this challenge so that we heal the whole family. Yeah, so let's see how you put that one out. The rest, what you have put here, today kids face challenge, and most of us never dreamt of, okay, online predators, mass school shootings, cyberbullying. Maybe that can also be part of the problem statement. I don't know, let's see, let's just think through together. They spend more time sharing screens than imagined. And then the motivation thought is that our children are not beyond redemptive. We need to hang on Isaiah 53:13. So where do we shift some of this content? Let's think through. But the motivation is, we need to say that family is the core. Is the core of the society, is the core of the organization, is the core of the nation. And globally, we need to now focus on this particular area of family, and that will address so many other issues. I don't know, again, if we concur on this.
We had changed that part of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
We had changed it. There's a slide that you have where we wrote, if we are going to make a difference for the kingdom, I believe there are 5 constructs to which we must attend in leading families in the 21st year. This particular slide, that is what we had put as our motivation, but we are ready for any correction or any input by any member of the team. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I think if we work along this and just try to really bring the essence of the family at the heart of any change, then we'll be will this will fit as a good motivation. I don't know if there is any other observation from the rest of the team. The collective wisdom here. Okay, so I think we agree on that, because motivation is why is this topic very important and why do we need to address this issue? So let's work around that. For the objectives, we can go with what you have, but again, I'll request that by Tuesday, kindly share what you have. I'll also share with, I don't review this alone. I normally share it with Reverend Kahindi and also Mr. Wamalwa. Mr. Wamalwa is very critical. He's focused on this area. So if I get this by Tuesday, I'll be able to share out with the rest of the team. Okay, so let's work with Tuesday. I believe that, I trust that is also workable with you and the team.
Yes, we'll work around it and see what we can be able to share with you. I think we've reached up to findings and discussions. So once I consult my team, then either I or Maggie will be able to send you the copy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. For the objectives, I always see 2 approaches to objectives. One, there is a team that will focus in terms of what the study will bring out. There's a team that will look at probably, this study will look at probably the challenges and the opportunities. I'm just giving an example on a particular area. And then the study will also probably identify the, probably some of the proposed solutions or proposed strategies to address the issue. And then finally, they come up with a plan. There are other teams that will look at the objectives in terms of after the implementation, towards the implementation, what do we need to achieve after implementing this, or as we implement the project proposal, what do we intend to achieve? And I think from your presentation, you are looking at what you need to address after the implementation of the project proposal. So the 2 approaches are well noted, and because one approach might look at from a more of a study perspective, the other one will look at this from an implementation approach, probably a practical approach. Once the project is implemented, what do we need to address, and that comes in through the objective. So we appreciate both of them. Let's look at, just share what you have, and then we'll interact online. If there will be need to have maybe a meeting with a cohort, I think after Tuesday we can agree and see if we can have maybe 30 minutes a Zoom meeting just to fine tune whatever we have. Otherwise, we can leave it at that, and then we appreciate, this is very commendable. We're looking forward to this, because we never know, maybe some of you might even take it up after this to another level of discussion. So thank you so much, Margaret, Reverend Ken, and Joshua, for this commendable work. Okay, so let's conclude with Pastor Phyllis and Mary. Last week, Mary shared a little bit of what you are focusing on, and we also felt that topic was very important. It's a very practical topic. You're focusing on poultry farming, very practical. I remember Lynn said that will help her because she's also venturing along that line, and she has faced some challenges in that area of poultry farming. So we are also looking forward to what will come out of your discussion, and maybe all of us or some of us may want to consume your research in terms of improving our venture. So Pastor Phyllis, you can also share your progress on behalf of the team. Karibu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity once again to be able to bring up our project. We have not been able to send you anything so far, but we are still working on our project. Last Saturday, I was not available. Today, I'm not sure whether Millie is available. She traveled. So I just want to bring a highlight of our project, which is in line with factors influencing farming, poultry farming. Let me just get it right. Our topic is factors influencing performance of poultry farming in Nairobi, because most farming is done in the upcountry, focusing in the urban area like Nairobi and its environs, where we have challenges because of land, a place where you can be able to put your poultry, but mainly it's the factors that are influencing the poultry farming, because many people believe that poultry farming is just like waking up and starting to bring up the poultry and you start, but it is very challenging. So our focus is on our study of the, let me get to it, the problem. Sorry, I'm using my phone, so it's running very fast. Yeah, the study of a problem. Just give me a minute. I'm sorry for that. Okay, the background of our study was to the poultry industry is facing various challenges. And like at the moment, we are having challenges with feeding, challenge of the piece of land where one is supposed to keep the poultry, the construction and all those, because there are various challenges. So we are looking at how to be able to get organized so that one can be ready. So the main area that we wanted to cover is to know how to planning for you to start the poultry and to be able to get the profit that one expects. We are facing the challenge, especially of the eggs in the market, and that is what we are trying now to get we are doing a review on how to go about it. So the statement of the problem is to investigate the factors influencing the performance of poultry farming in Nairobi and its environs. And we would want to identify how we can be able to do it better. So the purpose of the study is to investigate the factors influencing performance. You can be having the poultry, but you are not making any progress. So you'd want to know how to make the business grow better. So the research study is based on the following objectives: to determine the extent which the availability of extension services influencing the performance. Then we need to establish the extent which the product market influences performance. Then we need to assess the extent to which the level of education of the farmer influences performance. Then we need to investigate the extent to which the cost of inputs influence performance of poultry. So in essence, what you're trying to do is to see whether poultry business is viable or whether it can bring in the proceeds one expects after spending so much money in starting the project. So we have not done much, but we are pressing on. I believe maybe by next week, as you have said, by Tuesday, you would wish to see if you can be able to send something. When we meet with my colleague, we were supposed to be 3 of us, myself, Mary, and brother. There was another, was David, he left. So we are just struggling, the 2 of us, and we have equally been very busy with many things cropping up here and there that has somehow disoriented us. So we have not been able to do much, but we are trusting God that by Tuesday, maybe you'll have something tangible to send to you, Mwalimu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Phyllis, for the presentation. Let me first allow the team to share any observation. Okay.
I think it's a good idea because a majority of people, it's their desire to be able to do business by themselves. And I think if proper research is done, quite a number of people can be able to benefit, not only the presenters in that team, but who knows, maybe one of us can pick up a few things from what our sister is sharing or what the team will find out. And it can be income generating. I will just challenge the team to also try and do more research on what it takes to be a successful poultry grower, and look at what the experts share with regard to their views, the kind of ingredients they have for success, things like attention to detail, the desire to learn on how to do proper poultry farming, the issue of access to good water, commitment to air quality, good litter management, minimal stress, ability to raise no antibiotics ever birds, the mechanical skills around it and what have you. I think there's quite a number of people that have done research on how to be able to be a successful poultry grower or farmer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ken, for the input. Well, and very, very clear. Maybe you can pick one more if there is any other contribution. Seeing we have spent some good time on this, so if we have one, can close at that. Okay, so probably, Phyllis, I'll just pose one question, which if we get that clear, then the rest will fall into place. Exactly what problem are we solving or are we addressing?
We are addressing the problem of how to become a successful poultry farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Because many times people start and they stop on the way. Like I'm trying on that line.
Mm-hmm.
I have faced challenges, and most people have already taken back. They have dropped from continuing with poultry farming as a result of, like right now we have an issue with feeding. We have an issue with outbreaks. And even when you are doing what you can, you find even the production is low. So you're trying to see how we can make the business become successful. through research on, as our brother Pastor Ken has well said, we need to know those successful farmers. How have they succeeded? How have they been able to get where they are? Because there are those who started earlier, and we need to borrow a leaf from them, how they have been able to move on and become successful poultry farmers. Because it's at the start of something that one gets the teething problems, and if one is not able to get the right information and the relevant inputs, one can give up on the way. So we are trying to see, like, as much as we look at the factors that influence the poultry farming, we need to know how to get there and become a successful poultry farmer. Thank you.
Okay, so I can pick two precise issues. One, the issue of low productivity, that's a problem. And also I can pick the issue of failure rate. Many startups that end up not succeeding, failing. So that we now focus on those two areas, so that if there is any research that can support, what is the rate? What is the failure rate? How many have started? How many startups have failed along this area, so that we now paint that picture? It shows that clearly, indeed, if this number is starting and then this is the failure rate, then this is a problem that needs to be addressed. So maybe we can zoom it. We zoom into failure rate, and also we zoom into low productivity in our problem statement. And then we look at more research on that. If we're able to get some statistics that shows how many have started maybe in particular years, and how many failed, how many successful, I think that will really put everything into context. I know feeding is an issue now. We'll see if it comes out in your research, then it can also be part of it. Or if it doesn't come out directly in the problem statement, it can still come in when we'll be undertaking the literature review. But I feel if we zero into low productivity and failure rate, I think that because again of time, we may not be able to research so widely. That will help us to have something conclusive by the end of this period. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay. It's not in order.
Yeah, and then with that now, even within our objectives, we'll want to focus around that. Yeah, investigate why there is a failure, because again now the problem statement will be informing all the other areas that we are focusing on. So in the objectives, because I've seen your objectives are good, the ones that you mentioned, but they are a bit high level, especially in a practical environment. If it's purely in a research paper, those objectives will work very well, but they also need a lot of time. So I may want us just to zero down on a lower level. We look at probably just as Pastor Ken said, we can even look at what are some of the challenges as part of the objective. Identify the challenges poultry farmers are facing, and from identifying those challenges, we are able now to see what are the real issues. Maybe feeding will come up as part of the challenge. Maybe the issue of low productivity, and that will also be confirming our problem. It will also be confirming that indeed what we identified maybe from other literature, it is true. We have confirmed that from this research as well. So we can explore what are the real issues, what are the real challenges, and again, what are the success factors. And when you're looking at the success factors, if you're able to benchmark with any poultry, any successful, either within the country or outside the country, benchmarking will also be able to give us some very good input, which will also be maybe adding some new knowledge to our farmers. So benchmarking, I highly recommend if you can look at benchmarking. as part of the methodology. A survey is good, but again, we may not have enough time to conduct a survey, but a survey is also very good in terms of identifying the challenges and also the success factor. So in the objective, if you can look at those two areas, and then at the end come up with some recommendations, as the third objective. So the first objective can look at the challenges, then look at the success factors, and then summarize with some recommendation. And just look at that. That is something that can be shared even in the conferences, workshops, and seminars, because it will be adding value to our customers. I challenge you also to think about smart poultry farming. There are countries, I'm sure there are countries that are now focusing on smart farming. Are there smart ventures of smart farming in line with poultry farming? That's food for thought. Try and Google smart farming in terms of poultry. Look at what comes out, because smart farming is very important. It's very good in terms of boosting productivity and also managing the resources. We talked about land. So if you have a small piece of land, if you're practicing smart farming, then we can be able to utilize the resources quite adequately. So please not look at smart farming in poultry, smart farming regarding poultry farming. If there is anything that you can borrow, you can bring it on board. Then we explore and see how far we can go. So this is a very interesting area, very, very interesting. And it can really help a big portion of people who are in this field. And as you said in your opening statement, that many people just probably get into this business without really having having invested in terms of knowledge, having studied the area. So I think this will be one of the one initiative that will be addressing those challenges that already have been witnessed by failure rate, as you have indicated. So Pastor Phyllis, I'm sure this is quite a lot, but I think if we're able to see how much we can do, I think let's just engage between now and Tuesday, share whatever you have on Tuesday. I'll boost it, send it back to you. If we require to have a meeting, maybe we can have a meeting on Friday. We'll explore that, either with you or all of us, just for 30 minutes, so that on Saturday present, we'll be at least spend some good time to prepare. Remember what we said today when we were talking about communication: be an app, audience-centered, passionate, and also expert. So for us to be expert on Saturday, I think we need to do some intense research in the course of the week. We appreciate the time is limited, but we can see how much are we able to do between now and Saturday. Pastor Phyllis, are we okay? I know I've said, I've shared quite a lot.
Yeah. It's quite in order. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good. So leaders, we appreciate the effort. We appreciate the commitment. We appreciate the stretching. Reverend Ken, I know you are, as you have said, you are speaking in Kisumu, yet you can get time just to be with us tonight and share the project proposal and attend the class. I think we appreciate that, and we honor your availability. I tell leaders that this program is for busy people. It's for busy people. Only busy people are able to really stretch through this and ensure that at least you avail time to be able to benefit from this discussion. So I want to pause there. And we're looking forward to your submission on Tuesday. We'll share the final chapters of book review this week, and then we will be bringing this to a closure on Saturday, and then Saturday will guide you on what will follow. I don't know if there is any observation, any comment, any question before we conclude.
The fees that we are supposed to pay for this program, when is it needed, the balance that is remaining? When do we need to submit it?
Okay. Basically, by the time we are concluding next week on Saturday, we'll also be requesting that we finalize our balance. If those who still have the balance, I know some have cleared, some we still have the balance, but I know we have not been very consistent in communicating that. But I'll also share that so that by Saturday we can also address that. Thank you, Reverend Ken. Any other observation or comment, question? Good, so that let's unmute and share the words of grace and wish each other a blessed night as we conclude. May the grace
Of our Lord Jesus Christ,
Christ,
the
The
love of God, and the fellowship of
fellowship
the
of the
Holy
Holy
Spirit
Spirit
Holy Spirit,
with
be
be
with
with
us
us
now
now
and
forevermore.
forevermore. Amen.
amen.
Have a
Blessed night
blessed
all.
night, leaders, and Reverend Ken, have a good time in Kisumu.
Thank you.
Good night.
God bless
Good night all.
you.
Amen. Blessed night, everyone.